In week 6, we look at securities over property. What is a security? A security is, broadly speaking, a right to have recourse to some property if a debt is not paid. There is a distinction in property between what's called real property, which in fact refers to land and interests in land, on the one hand, and personal property, which is essentially everything else, on the other hand. Accordingly, there is a distinction between the kinds of securities that can be obtained. The law of securities over personal property has undergone enormous changes recently with the introduction of the Personal Property Securities Act 2009. An understanding of securities over personal property requires an understanding of this act. It commenced in 30 January 2012 and replaced a lot of the existing personal property schemes. In fact, it replaced almost 200 acts in Australia that related to personal property securities. Apart from expanding the concept of security interest, and thereby expanding a creditor's rights to have recourse to debtor's property, it also created a single Australia-wide electronic register that can be accessed online. This register replaced 70 existing registers, including the bills of sale registers, the asset company charge register, and others. The register gives people an opportunity to see what property is encumbered by securities. It also allows people to register their security interests at any time of the day. Whether or not securities are registered online affect the priority given to a security holder. The concept of priorities is an important concept in securities for both personal property securities and real property securities. One piece of property could have several security interests, and behind each of those security interests is a hungry creditor seeking to enforce their security interest. The concept of priority is essentially about which creditor is first in line. The concept of priority would not need to exist if, when a property is sold to satisfy debts, there was enough money in the proceeds to pay off all the creditors. Of course, that doesn't always happen, so there can be very important debates about who should be first in line. Because even though you may have a security interest, if you're last in line, there may be no money left by the time you get to the feast. Understanding security in real property requires a basic understanding of what is called the torrent system. The torrent system refers to the system by which we organize our ownership of land. It focuses on a register which is kept in each state, which records much of the state's land and what ownership interests are held in it. As you'll discover, that doesn't mean security interests can't exist if they're not on the register, but generally those on the register will take priority to those that are not. A mortgage, for example, that is in favor of a bank, one of the most common forms of security, will be taken to the registrar's office to be recorded very soon after, soon after the mortgage documents are signed. So the issues of priority exist as much in real property securities as well as personal property securities. And the reading will take you through that.